Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unpopular View.
Thank you all for clicking on our faces.
New flag with all that.
Okay, so I wrote down some notes.
Shots do that. I don't want to sit too hard. That's twice. That'll probably go over about as well as Colonel Defeat.
Because there was no Jay White side.
Okay, just straight up gangbanging. This story has been fit. You gotta pay attention.
So Unpopular Review does not. What is she the CEO of, Chris? Jesus, golly. Let's start the show. Hello. Hi, how are you? There you go.
Hello. Struggling to get this mouse to move, but here we are.
I see. Okay.
All right, so we are here today. Again, thank you for clicking on our faces. We are talking about the next live action show on Disney Plus. Again, we're watching all of the first episodes of all of the live action Disney Plus series. And we have landed on Book of Boba Fett. Now, this one came out in like 2021 too. This is, I don't know what was up with 2021, but Disney was in their Star Wars bag. Like, well, I don't know if they had it like a movie release around that time. Is it what?
I mean, I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you, but like I said last time, the demand is high and the demand is there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I certainly got mixed feelings about this show. However, like I said last week, if I knew the content better, I probably, would understand what's going on more. You know what I mean? Because, and I also feel like some of these things we probably should have watched in a certain order.
You think there was like a method to the release that they had?
Yeah, it's starting to feel very Marvel.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You know how like some shows were released at a certain time between certain movies, between certain things. I have a feeling this content is also running the same way. I could be wrong.
That's interesting. That's an interesting theory. I didn't look into it, but I wouldn't be surprised given that it is like its own kind of cinematic universe, right? It's the Star Wars thing, and a lot of these characters are connected. Like specifically with Boba Fett, I've heard that he may make he has or may make an appearance in The Mandalorian. So either it's already happened or it is planning to happen.
See, now I'm happy you said that because, I don't really know that much about Boba Fett. And he's giving me Mandalorian vibes. And that's just from, seeing the pictures of The Mandalorian, because I haven't seen The Mandalorian yet. But now from the beginning, it just made me feel like, damn, maybe I should have watched The Mandalorian first.
So this is Boba Fett. This is his suit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because we just watched the first episode, and I usually watch mine with the descriptive audio because there's like certain things that I would miss without it. And they said specifically that he grabbed his Mandalorian armor. So he is a Mandalorian. He's just not the Mandalorian, if that
I
makes
understand now.
Okay, so that's why their suits kind of look similar. I was like, okay, now we're getting it.
Okay. See, now I always thought that suit was on one person. Like,
yeah,
You know what I mean? I didn't realize he was like a stormtrooper type. Okay.
So, apparently, when it comes to this character, the Boba Fett, from what I remember hearing, this is the first time this character is kind of getting like an expansion on who he is, because he just had like a cameo on like one of the original Star Wars films.
Mm-hmm.
And from that one like cameo, people fell in love with this character and wanted to know more since that time.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that way because, especially like with the first one that we did, with the girl with the Rosario Dawson. That was just a side character. A lot of these things are just side characters from the movies, and they're just a lot of it just feels like a reach. To be honest with you, it was like a reach to to create something.
Oh, to get the bag, is that what it is?
Yeah, I might just be saying that because I'm a wrestling fan. You know what I mean? Because there's always something, but yeah, like they're just reaching for something, like to do something just to make it Star Wars and to make it relevant and to do something with Star Wars content. So but it certainly was interesting because and like I said from the beginning, if I knew the content a little bit better, like if I was a Star Wars fanatic, I'd probably been like, oh my god, Boba Fett. Yo, I'm about to dress up as Boba Fett when I was in the stomach. You heard?
I think I because I cosplay, and I want to say I took a picture with a Boba Fett, thinking it was a Mandalorian. But now that I think back at it, he might have been Boba.
So now, my question to that is, do a lot of Star Wars people show up at the cons? Because I know what you do is strictly like anime and stuff.
Well, the cons are for all types. It's pretty much all fandoms. So there are a lot of superheroes. It's primarily anime characters and Marvel, DC characters. But there is a big subdivision of Star Wars characters, especially with Hayden Christensen coming out often to the cons to sign autographs and stuff. Like he's regularly at these cons. Like you can always see a line wrapped around to get an autograph from Hayden Christensen.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. See, now because I just assumed they would have their own con. You know what I mean?
You know what? I wonder if they do have a Star Wars con. They definitely have the fan base for it.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, and I feel like this is something that has been happening prior to the existence of Comic-Con.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I remember people dressing up. Like when I was a little boy, I remember people dressing up.
Now that makes me wonder.
That was a thing way back. You know what I mean? Now everybody's just like, it's just Halloween all the time. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to find a reason. You know what I'm saying? But yeah.
That makes me wonder. I wonder what was the first con and if it predates Star Wars, because Star Wars came out in the 70s.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that at least Comic-Con over here, I think started in the early 2000s because the first one I went to, I just walked in, paid $20 and the cash, and that was it. And I was in my
the New York Comic-Con.
Yeah, and this was like maybe 15 years ago, right before it became this whole thing where you have to stress and refresh to get a ticket. You know what I mean? That's why I'm saying what I'm saying, because I know that back then it was it was a new thing. You see how Fanatics Fest just showed up? It was like that, and I personally don't feel like it was that long ago, but I know that prior to that there was definitely Star Wars stuff. I don't know if it was at that magnitude, but there was definitely Star Wars stuff. You know what I mean? But anyway, I'm rambling too much about that.
Oh, no. We're just having a conversation. We got a comment here. Hayden is that boy, definitely would want to meet him live. For sure. He's definitely an icon out here in these streets. And I was able to find a picture of me and the character, and it was 100% Boba Fett looking at that.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So 100%.
Oh shit! Look at you there, Rogan. That's hot.
Yeah.
That's hot. Look at, oh shit! You almost dressed the same. We got a little thing. That's crazy. Yo, that's L, man.
But to bring it back to this episode again, this is episode 1 of the Book of Boba Fett, and it seems that we have Boba Fett. He has taken over the position of leader of this planet or village newly. It seems like he was just implanted as this leader. People come up to him and are asking about different procedures that the previous leader did, but he's like a warrior. He's like a warrior / leader. He's one of those. He's not really about running things. He's about getting things done. But we have him unmasked. My boy still out here ready for action, right? This is our Boba Fett, and he has his right hand woman, and Finnick, I believe they called her. And she's also very much capable. These are two capable fighters, and I find that
Mhm.
interesting about this episode. I did notice that there seemed to be like a little less dialogue than I would associate with a series opener. It was very action based. Like we had a lot of fights.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of stuff was just show. When we first meet him, I don't even think he was speaking really. It was just him and
Yeah, it's kind of hard to make an opinion because I agree. This was very like show, but to hook you to the second episode.
yeah, for
Like,
sure.
like this, that's definitely what it was because it definitely left a lot of question marks over my head. And if I continue, then I guess I'll learn more. But yeah, yeah. This definitely was action packed.
Hmm.
I mean, the guy literally started off in his stomach and peeled off a stormtrooper's like oxygen or whatever.
Yeah,
I found it weird he didn't take the helmet off when he was inside, but yeah, like it was that part of it was odd. But then the other thing that I found interesting was then once he was in a position where he was like that dude,
uh-huh.
and the Angry Birds piggies showed up.
Oh, okay. I took a picture of them because I thought it was funny. These things.
Yeah, I literally wanted to play Angry Birds after seeing these guys.
They reminded me of like weird Shrek looking characters, but I thought it was interesting because and how I remember what they're called because they're green. They're called Gamorreans, and I thought about Gamora from
Mm.
what's it called, Guardians of the Galaxy, who's also green. I was like, okay, now I can remember that. It's green like Gamora.
Okay. I didn't even know what those things were. It was just straight angry. You know what I mean? But anyway, what I found compelling about that is that he gave them mercy. Like
Yeah.
because first he's presented as this big badass, but then he was just like, listen, if you bow down to me, what you gonna do? What I'm gonna. And even his concierge, like his girl, she
Hmm.
was just like, yo, that's a bad idea. What's wrong with you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
But they seemed loyal to him. They was ready to, put things down on line when, stuff started to hit the fan later in the episode. Because we do see them on Tatooine. And apparently Tatooine is where Jabba the Hutt from the original movies. This is his stomping grounds.
mm-hmm.
So I took a picture of the planet here. And I know there's been a little bit of backlash about Star Wars having very similar set designs for all of these different planets. It's always like this sandy atmosphere out in the desert somewhere, and they didn't change it up here. And I'm starting to see where that's coming from because like all of these galaxies you say you have in the beginning of every episode, every movie, and everyone is made of sand. um,
Word, it's like they film everything in the Sahara.
yeah,
Like
I don't know what's up with that.
straight
Maybe
up.
back in the day in the 70s when the movie first came out, it was more cost efficient. But now
Yeah.
it's by Disney. You got the coins. Like, stop being cheap. Apparently, these shows cost millions of dollars an episode.
I mean, yo, that the costumes,
Mm-hmm.
the money in costumes, and you
Mm-hmm.
know this better than I do. Like that's got to be. Come on, come
Yeah,
on, all that makeup. Come
yeah.
on,
Prosthetics,
bro.
everything else, because there's
Yeah.
practical effects.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's some CGI. Later in the episode, we have
There
them.
better be some CGI, but
Yeah,
that's
they're
money. That's money too, because that's time.
yeah, the special effects take time.
Mm.
At the end of the episode, we see Boba Fett and his crew fighting against this like huge, like kaiju sized desert monster. And this picture looks bad. It looks like, Godzilla like movie one. But while I was
Oh yeah,
watching
with the Chinese gun.
yeah, it looks very much like old
Yeah,
school Godzilla.
it really
Or
does.
like the swamp monster or
Right.
something.
Yeah,
But
like from the '60s. Like it really looks old school. Yeah, you're right.
yeah.
That's
But
crazy.
while I was watching it, look good. It could have just been, the still shot.
No. It really did look like it was just an old puppet that they found in the back, and you know what I mean. Probably because they had to bury it and then pull it out of the sand and then have, you know what I mean?
But
Who
at the
knows?
same time, we know Disney has money, so I'm going to assume that that old school Godzilla Swamp Thing vibe was done on purpose to kind of keep it in line with the
Maybe.
Star Wars, franchise. Because all of it's like kind of old, right? All of the tech looks kind of old. It's not really super modern by our standards.
Well, that does make sense because Boba Fett is a character from an old movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, for them to keep it like that, it does make a lot of sense. Yeah, you might be right with that. I mean, because the truth is, in 2024, with AI, our expectations are gonna be super high.
Yeah.
With the capabilities that are available now, yeah, especially with that. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense for them to just keep it old. And it probably saves them a lot of money too.
Right.
You know? And then at the same time, like, they're producing so much crap. You know what I mean? It's like at the end of the day, Disney's going to be the only name.
But speaking of, well, actually, before we get into that, let's go ahead and give our thoughts on the episode. So overall, how do you feel about the Book of Boba Fett based off of this episode 1 of season 1?
Well, it makes me want to watch more because I want to learn more about the character. Mm-hmm. Honestly, like that. My biggest thing is just that there's a lot of things that I didn't know about this character, and it certainly makes me want to learn more. But like I said from the beginning, like, this thing it's a reach. Like, they're just looking for something to put out there and continue the Star Wars story. Mm-hmm. I mean, and they've been doing that for the last 20 years. So Disney's just jumping on that. But I would definitely want to watch more because it's it looks interesting. At least there's a lot of action.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a guy, I like action.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some Star Wars stuff that can get really into the story, and if you don't know the story, then it kind of sucks. But there's definitely a lot of fighting and stuff. I didn't see any lightsabers, but
right, we didn't.
I didn't see any of that. So
there's no Jedi in this at least in this first episode.
Right. Word. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, look at that. It's like there's off parts from the Jedi and the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's more stories out of like.
I like that. I like that we don't see the Jedi because Jedi aren't supposed to be like this, heavily populated group. It's supposed to be rare to see a Jedi. You could live your whole life without seeing a Jedi. So I like that.
I mean, you know what? Now that you say that word so much, now I'm remembering as a little kid seeing people walk around like Jedis, and straight up put up the whole thing, and then try to do the Jedi mind trick. All of that. All of that. Yes, I remember that as a child, and I'm old. And so, yeah, man, that's interesting. I'm gonna see if I find some old YouTube videos on cons from back in the day.
Now you're a tinkerer, right? I know you're a tinkerer. You can like put some things together. Would you ever consider building a lightsaber?
Hell yeah! What? The only reason I didn't do it when I was at Disney is because what it is just like a light. Mm-hmm. It's like a flashlight. Mm-hmm. But if I can get the thing to actually be like the way it looks in the movies, why all day, man?
Shout out to my friend Danny Say So. Check her out on Instagram. She recently did a really good Star Wars cosplay, lightsaber, everything else. So check her out on Instagram and on Twitch. Danny Say So. But for me, right, Book of Boba Fett. I would give this another shot. I would give it another shot because even though this episode wasn't super immersive for me, like it was enough to make me curious to want to know more about this character and more about the story here. There have been some that we've watched that I would not return to. And I feel like it will be interesting to discuss which of the series of these Star Wars live actions that we prefer, or kind of like rank them in a way. But I would return to Boba Fett. And see kind of what happens. I'll give it another shot. I'll give it another 2-3 episodes to see how they develop the story and the characters and stuff. So yeah, there's that. But before we end, recently earlier this week, it was um, kind of there was news that unfortunately the Acolyte will not be renewed for
Mm-hmm.
season two, right? And it seems from everything that I've heard about the show, again, we did a one shot, wanted to check it out in the archive. But prior to that, I did watch the first like 3 episodes. And for me, I kind of fell off of it, but apparently it wasn't just me, it was multiple. So, according to Deadline, The Acolyte canceled no season 2 for Disney Plus Star Wars series. The story of The Acolyte will not continue with Lucasfilms opting not to proceed with a second season of the Star Wars offshoot starring Amanda Steinberg, and sources tell Deadline. Word of the decision comes more than a month after the 8 episode season of the series from creator, director, executive producer, and showrunner Leslie. So it hasn't been renewed, and there's been speculation. It could be because of low ratings. It could be because of the expense of the episodes. Like apparently it was something along the lines of 22 million per episode to create per episode, not even season.
No, that's a lot.
Yeah,
There's movies that cost less than that. I mean,
right.
but yeah, and that's an episode. Nah, you wildin'. That's a lot.
An episode. I'm a little disappointed though because one, this is one of the series in Star Wars that gives us a more diverse cast. It was Asian led, Black led, and I appreciated that of the series. But also because this is one of the ones that I felt that you didn't have to have a PhD in Star Wars lore to appreciate. Like you didn't, it was all new characters for the most part.
Well, one thing that I appreciated about Obi-Wan is
well.
that it showed you parts of the movie that connected the show to the whole thing. So it gave you like a rundown of what's going on. None of these other shows aren't really doing that. Like like I feel like I said from the beginning, you have to know the character, like you said, say a PhD in Star Wars. But with Obi-Wan, I don't think that was necessary.
Now, do you think that's because of? I think in episode 1 we had like a couple flashbacks from the movie, but do you think that's because the movie, the prequels, were so popular in the early 2000s that we're more familiar with them? Because that's how I feel. I feel like I'm more knowledgeable about it because I'm more familiar with the prequels because of the time period that they came out.
Well, no, when it comes to Obi-Wan, I think this is just all about the character himself.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so I think with the character, because of the character, all of that was necessary, and everybody already knew because Obi-Wan is like Luke Skywalker. Everybody knows that name, and Han Solo. You know what I'm saying? So, but when it comes to the other characters, I wish they would have at least done like a little commercial of something with the movie, with parts that they show up in the movie, or just where it is that they showed up before.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? As opposed to just bomb. Look, it's a Star Wars thing. Look, come watch. And I think that it might just be that simple for the Star Wars fan base, where all of that isn't necessary. For me, it's necessary because I don't know, but I really appreciated that about Obi-Wan. I wish they would have done that with everything else. Certainly with this, to see, where we saw Boba Fett before. You know what I mean? That's pretty much it. But then, like I said, all of these things might be connected. I don't know. I don't know if they just roll the dice and see, hey, let's try this character. You know what I mean? Like
I know there's so many different like time periods with Star Wars. It spans like generations within the like lore of the movies and the series. But I feel as if, again, I don't know if this is something that Disney Plus already does, but maybe they should roll out like a short or like some like 30-minute, documentary of a character before they release any kind of like newer series. Because I would definitely, if they had a Boba Fett kind of like character breakdown where you, like you mentioned, that you kind of get introduced to the character, that I think that would be very helpful to like, casual viewers like myself with Star Wars. Yeah, I can see that. But But yeah, that was our discussion on the Book of Boba Fett. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. Don't forget to like and share and with your friends, and join us next week, possibly Thursday, maybe Wednesday. Check it out. We'll post it on YouTube when we do decide what day it is going to be. But we are going into the next live action show. I believe we only have 2 more, so it's either going to be Andor, which recently got renewed or approved for a season 2, or it's going to be The Mandalorian, which apparently may be having a film, like a full-fledged theater release film in the works. So that's interesting. I can't wait to discuss that with everyone. But yeah, thanks for being here. See you later. Goodbye.